part of my awakening process was the knowing of the pre-birth plan. So I saw that I, as a soul, had mapped out my whole life before I ever came to Earth. So I saw that I had picked addiction and recovery to both be plot points in my human storyline. And there's a saying, hurt people, and healed people, heal people. And that's exactly what my life has been. It's been that mirrored experience in both aspects.
Guy here. Welcome to my podcast. My beautiful guest today is Betty Guadagno. Betty, I hope I pronounced your surname correctly. This conversation is mind-blowing. Talk about a transformation. I've been podcasting for nearly 10 years and interviewed many people across my podcast channels. And wow, Betty's story is phenomenal, and she's the real deal. She really wears her heart on her sleeve and shares and listens and speaks so authentically. It was, you're in for a treat. We dive into her near-death-like experience, her spiritual awakening that created the catalyst for transformation. We also lean into her healing journey. We also lean into manifestation and her thoughts on what is going on in the world right now as we move from 3D to 5D consciousness. And that was in Betty's words. Amazing conversation. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoy it, get something out of it, want to share an insight. Where are you at? Let's connect. You interacting with me with YouTube as I look to get my YouTube channel out there more and more means a lot to me, and it's great to be able to connect no matter where we are in the world, because I really feel these conversations need to be of regular every day, every normal day. Anyway, that's enough from me. If you want to find out more about what we're up to, there's links below. Enjoy this conversation with Betty. Yeah, it's awesome. There we go. We're live. Betty, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much.
I'm excited to see where this goes today. Like I mentioned, I've stumbled across you and heard a little bit of your story. And I actually purposely don't find out all the details, because then it allows me to just remain curious, as well as all the listeners as well. And yeah, so thank you for coming on. Much appreciated.
I'm excited for the shock factor if you don't know all of it.
I always ask this question opening up, and I might as well keep the theme of the podcast going, is if people come up to you, if they stopped you in a supermarket today and said, hi, what do you do for a living? What would you say right now?
Wow. Well, I'm a coach. I'm a recovery coach. I'm a spiritual coach. Yeah, I'm an aspiring author. There's so many things. I like to live in my future self. So but I would definitely say that I'm a coach. I assist people on their healing journeys, on their spiritual journeys. And I'm so grateful that the universe has set me up in a place where I can do that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And the reason why I don't want to blow smoke up your arse or anything, but Betty, when I stumbled across you on YouTube, like within seconds, it was obvious there was just a purpose and an energy about you that was, you can't fake any of that. And I was like, I've got to find out more. And so the next question would be, how did you get into that? Because I know there's been a long road for you, and I understand there's been family trauma and different things, and it's been quite a path. So
yeah, I'm so covered in goosebumps right now. Like my whole body is just like straight up chills. So yeah, I feel like this is aligned. I'll give you like a brief overview. Very traumatic childhood, very traumatic adult. I'm trauma filled. I got like a whole trauma trunk next to me, full of all sorts of goodies inside of it. Sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma. My parents were both drug addicts. I was a drug addict. Like a whole family full of addiction and poverty and really dense experiences. And my parents both committed suicide in 2007 due to their addiction. And, that loss was so traumatic and traumatizing for me that in that moment of experiencing this really tremendous loss, I made this decision that, I was no longer going to be a victim. I felt victimized my whole life. And this was just like the last time that I was ever going to be victimized. And so from now on, I would be the perpetrator in people's stories. I would be the victimizer. And so that's the moment that I really embodied the the shadow version of myself. I have some language for it today. Then I did not, but I just became like a manipulator, a liar, a thief, an abuser, a perpetrator. It was a really dark, and it was all masked by my addiction. My addiction let me feel like I could do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. And I had all of these great excuses to, continue to hurt people. And, there's a saying, hurt people, and healed people, heal people. And that's exactly what my life has been. It's been that mirrored experience in both aspects.
And a couple of questions for you then. Wow. How old were you when your parents committed suicide? I'm assuming they committed suicide together. Is that what
they did?
happened?
Yes. Yeah. They intentionally overdosed together. They left notes. They were very brief notes. And, it was, I understood in some way what was going on because I was dealing with my own addiction. I was 23 years old when my parents committed suicide. My sister was 18 and we found them. And, it just like no words for what something like that is like.
Wow. So I'm assuming then you were around drug addiction your whole life. Like,
oh, definitely.
Right
Yeah. It's a learned behavior. Yeah. The whole family.
Yeah. Wow. And then when you said you were addicted, but you flipped the roles into being the perpetrator almost. Can you just lean into that a little bit more?
Oh yeah, let me tell you what a mess I was. I really was.
Yeah. So I'm just fascinated because, like, from the person you are today and having what you've been through in your spiritual awakening, which we'll get into, it just really helps give people context.
I think that understanding the contrast is really an important aspect of it. And like again, today I have language for it. Then I didn't, but embodying the shadow and the light, and mine were so separate. I was a really militant atheist. In this whole act of becoming the perpetrator. And I was abusing every and anything that I could to not feel. Like I had these huge gaping wounds all over my spiritual body, my emotional body, of abandonment and rejection and victimization. And, just like so many wounds that I could not handle. And so I used drugs, I used alcohol, I used men, I used relationships, I used food, I used anything that I could get my hands on to make me feel powerful, to make me feel comforted and safe. And so some of the aspects where I was the perpetrator, these are like super not glamorous. I'm not glamorizing any of them. I've caused much, much harm in my life. And I make living amends for all the harm that I caused today by doing the opposite. But, I was a prostitute in active addiction. And not only would I prostitute myself, but I would manipulate other women. I would get them strung out on drugs and I would prostitute them so that I can make money from my own addiction. It's a very challenging thing to say. Today, I'm in the business of helping women on their healing journeys, which is amazing because I get an opportunity to make a universal amends. I caused so much harm in my past, and there's nothing that I can do about it today except heal and be a better person for other women in my life moving forward. And, I've done a lot of spiritual healing around those aspects of myself so that I don't get weighed down in guilt and shame. I can actually rise above and continue to grow and evolve with the experiences that I've had in my life.
Well, were you seeking any help at that time, or was it just completely closed off and you were kind of on a mission to drive yourself into the ground?
I definitely was ready to live and die using substances and alcohol. Like I'm even covered in tattoos of like liquor bottles and packs of cigarettes. Like this was my lifestyle. Okay. I was a party girl. That's what I thought I was. I thought that it was a party. It wasn't. It never was a party for me. It was like really a full-time job with like no benefits, bad employer, like no days off. It was really just, it was hell on earth. That's really what it was. But I was too sedated to recognize any of that. I was in complete zero awareness. I never really wanted help because my addiction spoke to me in this very loud way. And my addiction said to me, if you let go of me, meaning my addiction, if you let go of drugs, you let go of the memory of your parents. And what kind of daughter would you be to let go of the legacy of your family? This is what your family is. Your family is death, depravity, drugs. You cannot escape that. And if you try to, like, who do you think you are to do that? And so my addiction really had a grasp on me. The only time that I would ever try to get help was just to like rest and recalibrate so that I could get high again. So I would go to detox, I would go to rehab, I'd stay away for a couple of weeks, just so that, always with the intention of coming out and using again right away.
Wow. So that obviously drove you to a point. And when you had your near-death-like experience, your spiritual awakening, or whatever you would call it, up until that point, you were still an atheist, didn't have any concept or didn't want to believe that there's a source energy or something beyond us that binds the universe together.
Militant, radical atheist. I had long philosophical rants about how there was nothing more. And one of the main reasons why I really dove into this idea of atheism was because the only thing that I really knew about God, I mean, obviously I didn't grow up in a house where we were taught about God. My parents were drug addicts. It wasn't part of the picture. But the only thing that I really knew was some stuff that I had heard in the Bible about if you commit suicide, you go to this place called the pit. And it just all seemed very condemning and just, I couldn't imagine my parents suffering their whole like human lives and then having to also suffer for all of eternity. And I thought, what kind of God would do that? And, I had been through so much trauma in my own life, sexual abuse as a small child, just like every kind of abuse that you could possibly imagine. And I just stayed hidden from God because it seemed much easier until my awakening, where I was just face to face with the fact that I was totally, absolutely wrong about all of my beliefs.
Wow. And the thing that once we go through an experience like this, and we kind of have I guess, more of a total observation of both aspects, right? Then we start to see the human in other humans. We connect beyond the armor, the front, the mask, however you want to look at it, and you can see feel the pain underneath, I guess, is at some capacity. What are your thoughts then? And I got to ask this question first because we're living in a society where we tend to ostracize people that are on that path. It's I don't, it's just brushed to one side, pretend it doesn't exist almost, or they're just bad people.
Yeah. So, a big part of my recovery journey has been understanding that I experience the dis-ease of addiction. And this is not like a moral deficiency. Also, part of my awakening process was the knowing of the pre-birth plan. So I saw that I, as a soul, had mapped out my whole life before I ever came to Earth. So I saw that I had picked addiction and recovery to both be plot points in my human storyline. So I do think that there's a lot of, there's not a lot of education around addiction. I don't think that we have great ways of handling it as a society. I don't know if we ever will. And I really believe in spiritual autonomy. And I think that, I believe in pre-birth planning. So I work in a drug rehabilitation clinic for like a day job. And like I see a lot of people that are experiencing challenges with addiction all day long. It's really, it's a lot to deal with. And I just look at them and I see the soul inside of them. And I think, wow, your soul really signed up for a big challenge. And I'm glad that I get to be the light inside of this facility. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're interested in my light or that they even listen to anything that I have to say. My energy just admits, and I don't have to do anything. And these are the beliefs that I live my life by. Because if I think that like I'm here to save the world or I'm here to turn every addict into a healed and recovered person, I'm going to exhaust myself. It's never going to happen. Like I got to let go of like those self-righteous ambitions to be the savior of something. So instead, I just work on my own recovery. I'm a shining example that there is life after drugs. I mean, yeah, there's some before and after pictures of me that if you see what I look like before versus what I look like now, you know that there's something else totally different going on.
Oh yeah. I saw them on Instagram this morning. I was checking. A great Instagram, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so like it's night and day. It clearly is. Why? And we'll get into the whole experience in a sec. But why do you think then you would pick to go on a journey like this of addiction as a soul, to then go into those depths of despair?
Yeah, it's challenging to talk about, right? Because like my human understanding is like, why, how could that evolve you as a soul? That, you know, that doesn't have anything to do with being a spirit. So for me, I saw the reasons why I picked these certain things. One of them was that I had the same challenge in a previous life and I did not complete it. So like I died from a drug overdose and I was not able to complete my mission of transmuting the addiction into recovery. Because it's always about overcoming in many life plans. It's about transmuting energy from dark to light, from going on a journey. And another reason was the family line that I chose to be born into. I was transmuting the energy for the entire family line. And also for the collective. You know, this is a part of our society, whether we want to look at it or we don't. Addiction, whether it's drug addiction, technology addiction, sex addiction, porn addiction. I mean, we are a society that wants more of everything, more sedation, more entertainment. And so it was about transmuting this for the collective as well. And like I said, you know, like my own recovery journey, it kind of like vibes out, you know, like I'm not doing anything about it. I don't have to do a lot of work, but I know that my energy is doing stuff without me realizing it.
Wow. So what happened with the spiritual awakening then? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I had a drug overdose. Who would have thought? I took too many drugs. And I had this very profound spiritual experience. Again, I have language for it today. What I had was a Kundalini awakening. And if you're unfamiliar with what Kundalini energy is, in different cultures, they call it different things, but Kundalini translates into life force. So I had this life force energy activation awakening where every single one of my chakra systems was opened and activated at the exact same moment. I'm talking about systems that had never been online or I didn't even know what they were. And so I had this rush of energy going up and down my body. And I was conscious for my awakening experience, but it was from a drug overdose.
Okay.
So
the drugs activated it.
Yes, the drugs definitely activated it. And so I had this rush of energy going up and down me. And as the energy hit my third eye and my crown, it was like my spirit shot out of my body and started to travel into the space of eternity. And I'll take you on that journey with me. So first I started to experience what I believe was like a life review. I started to feel all of the experiences in my life, not only from my perspective, but from the other person's perspective as well. And like I shared, I put a lot of people through a lot of harm. And so I was experiencing these really hellish vibrations. It felt like I was actually trapped inside of what I would imagine people describe hell to be like. And I also felt the experience of my parents' suicide, not only from my perspective as a grieving daughter, but also from their perspective as the people who committed suicide. And it was like the deepest ocean of anguish. I mean, like I was drowning in this feeling and I thought that I would never be able to escape it. And I thought, okay, I'm dead and this is hell and this is what my life is going to be. And then I started to hear these masculine voices and they were guiding me. And they just kept saying, you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe. And as I started to follow their voice, it felt like I was traveling up towards light. And I found myself kind of like decked on, it felt a lot like a spaceship. And there was like, I could perceive a lot. Everything was in my perception at the exact same moment. So I was perceiving like 5 different scenes all at once. And it was like I was on the deck of this spaceship and there was like all these other souls around me, like thousands and thousands of souls. And we were getting geared up for our mission to come to Earth. And there was like a commander in the center, whether it was like Christ or Krishna or Buddha, some sort of like higher entity was the commander of this army. And they were like pumping us up. They were like, you guys are ready, let's do it. Like just like this whole concert of like spirits all like glowing with light and ready for this mission. And so I see that, I'm part of this spiritual army. And then my awareness kind of goes to another scene, and I find myself in front of a table of beings, and they have this big giant book, and they don't tell me who they are, but they definitely felt like people who were in charge. And I didn't even have to question who they were. I knew that they were in charge, and I was standing there in front of them, and they're thumbing through this book, and they're like, oh, it's nice to see you. Get ready for your trip back. Like, you're not meant to stay here. And I'm like looking around me, and I'm like, you're not talking to me, right? Because like, I'm definitely staying here. This place is cool. I like the way it feels, and I'm not going back down to where I just was. And they were like, no, you have to go back. They're looking through the book. They're like, you're not finished. You have so much more work to do. And I was very dismissive. I was like, I will not return. Thank you. They took me through the details, the very intricate details of my pre-birth plan. And, it was like, it looked like a grocery store. It's all like very animated in my head. And, I just thought that like going through this experience, I was like, damn, I am so high. I will never be this high ever again. This is so crazy what's happening inside my mind right now. And I just thought that I had broken myself and I would never be able to repair myself. So in the details of this pre-birth plan, it looked a lot like a grocery store. And I was guided through the grocery aisles, and on the walls of the grocery aisles were like these big cereal boxes, and each cereal box had a life experience in it. And I'm grabbing every box. I'm like, we're going to Earth. Let's do it. I just start grabbing everything: prostitution, drug addiction, my parents, the family line I would be born into, my gender, my ethnicity, all of my hardship, all of my opportunity to overcome, every aspect of my life, all these major plot points I'm putting into this grocery cart. And so I see in this moment, that like all of this bondage can be released from my spirit. I'm no longer a victim to my circumstance. I am actually a divine co-creator of my experience. Things have no longer happened to me. They have happened for me, because on some soul level, I have chosen it for the evolvement of myself. And I was so grateful to have this information, because it took so much weight off of this personality profile, this life that I had just lived. And so, I thanked the beings for showing me the details of my pre-birth plan. I was so grateful. And I was like, I am still not returning, but I am so happy to have more information. Thank you so much. And they were like, no, you have to go back. You have not transmuted your life. You haven't completed the mission. And they told me about, the whole scene with this whole army, that, like, we're all here for the Great Awakening, that we have come to Earth for the transformation of consciousness. And we're all here to play our parts in that transformation and evolution. And I was like, you got thousands of other souls. You don't need me. I'm just like one person. I'm going to stay up here. I'm going to grab my PJs and a bowl of popcorn. I'm going to watch the show from right here. I'm real comfortable. And they were like, listen, this is not a punishment. You're not going back as a punishment. You're going back because you volunteered and you signed up. And so you have to complete. They said, you don't have to go back into her, meaning me, this body, but you do have to go back. And so if you choose not to go back into her, then we'll show you the baby that you'll be born into. And they showed me this beautiful little baby and everything about her life's mission, her adversity. And she had to finish my cart. She was going to have to take all the same experiences that I had already experienced, plus a couple more, and complete this life's mission, this soul's mission. And I said, okay, if these are my only options, I definitely cannot start from zero, and I'll go back into her. And I found myself sifting back into my awareness. And, as I sifted back, I just remember them saying, like, trust us. The first half of your life was boot camp, and the second part of your life will be carrying out the mission. You're going to have help. You're going to have friends. You're going to feel our love. It's not going to be nearly as challenging as the first half. Just trust and believe. And I was like, I do not trust you guys. I just found myself back in my awareness, and I just wrote the whole thing off as drug-induced psychosis, because it just like was not part of my picture. That's my
Wow.
experience.
There's a lot there. You've opened a couple of loops for me as well. I'm just like, wow. So, yeah, the first question is then for people listening to this today, because it'd be quite easy to go, you just took too many drugs, man, and that's it, right? Because I had a gentleman on podcast a couple of months ago, Christopher Dean. He'd come to our retreat. He's a gentleman in the sense he's very successful entrepreneur, but been on the spiritual path. And he, in his early 20s, took too much LSD and had a near-death experience, and he got shown around the universe by a being. And he said, and he never talked about it for 20 years, like it changed the trajectory of his entire life. And it's fascinating. How real did that experience feel to you at that moment in time when you reflect back upon it now?
Yeah, it was
clearly,
way realer than this reality that I think is real. That was real reality. This is some other reality.
Well, there you go. And the second loop is they mentioned the Great Awakening. What do you think or feel or have learned? What is that? Because we hear it. There's a lot of noise online. What do you think is going on?
So, yeah, there is a lot of noise online. I like the way that you put that. A lot of static. That's kind of what it feels like. So for me, the download is very, very clear. It's like the one download that like really, really stuck with me. It said, you are here for the Great Awakening. You are here for the transformation of consciousness. You're here to help the collective transform from a level of third dimensional thinking to fifth dimensional thinking. And I do that just by being myself. So what is 3D versus 5D? A third dimensional level of thinking is an ego-centered thought system. Okay. It's material based. It's not aligned with spiritual principles. A 5D level of thinking is about being spirit centered, service centered. And it's not, like, it's going to look different for every person. Like I'm in the midst of my transformation, like I straddle that line between the two because I'm here to be of service. And so, like I'm in my ego-centered way of thinking all the time. It's like a minute to minute thing. I have to like constantly remind myself, hey, you're a spiritual being. Like, let's get realigned with your spiritual principles of brotherly love, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, compassion, empathy, patience, tolerance. But it doesn't happen every second of the day. Like I go through many moments in my day where I want to act out of my defects of character and act out of my human, like my primal instincts. So, I think that when I think about the Great Awakening, I think about everybody sort of having this flash of awareness, and maybe it'll be like a near-death experience, like how it was for me. It was like this total transformation of thought from one thing to the next thing. And hopefully for many people, it will be nice and slow and gradual and not like a bucket of ice water and spiritual bricks being thrown on your head like it was for me. And, I think that we assist the collective in that transformation of thought by having these conversations, by creating spaces online for people to talk about spiritual experiences and make them the new normal.
Yeah, I hear you. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because for me, it feels like I remember after my Kundalini awakening and then having to integrate that. And I was in a place where I was already on the path. I was very aware of chakras and energy and movement. And, it wasn't like yourself where you've just gone like, kapow, like, wow. I'm sitting here going, wow, I can't even comprehend your journey, when things like that happen. And even after having those experiences for me, there was still a collapsing of that. I had to stop resisting to what was wanting to come through, to the point where I was like, I'm selling my company, I'm stepping out into the unknown, and I realized this is what I need to do, which takes huge amounts of courage. And I think leaning into this from 3D to 5D takes huge amounts of courage, and being able to stop the resistance to what is wanting to come through. And I think that's where I think the transition, like you say, can be a lot more gradual if we give up the fight. But we're not even aware it's happening. That's the problem. If we're not aware.
Well, I mean, we are, and I think that that's really all that that matters.
But
it's just
collective we.
Yes. But I hold this vision, and I think it's important for all of us in awareness to also hold the vision that transformation is happening. If I continue to affirm out loud man, people are asleep. They just don't get it. Like, this is never going to happen. Then the universe hears me and says, okay, all these people are asleep. This is never going to happen. And that's it. So I stay in that mindset. Like, and I know that if transformation is possible for me, it's literally possible for every living conscious being. Okay. Like, you could not have taken a more asleep, unaware being and activated them. So like, if that could happen for me, I trust and believe it's going to happen for every living being.
So what did you do with it once it happened? Because you come out of this, you probably find yourself laying on the floor somewhere.
Yes, in my bathroom. It was very gross.
In
And
your
grody.
bathroom as well. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, it took me a while to like realize I'm still integrating. It's been 4.5 years. But after my experience, I was still just doing what I had always done. I was still using drugs, getting drugs, manipulating people to get drugs, like doing whatever I had to do to make money to get drugs. That was literally my whole life. I mean, yeah, my only vocabulary was just like this long laundry list of drugs that I used and how much money it cost to be with me. And everything else that's come into my awareness now is like through the grace of something much bigger than myself. And I just kept using. And then my path got really, really teeny tiny. Like the universe was like, no, listen, this was not some drug induced hallucination. This was a real experience and you got to get on the path now. And there was like this great sense of urgency. And so my world collapsed. So like all of these divine synchronicities took place to get me into a different path. And, like you just kind of described it too, the hero's journey, like letting go of everything and just saying like, I'm going to enter a world that I have no idea what it is. And I'm just going to trust and believe. So all of my dealers, they all decided at the exact same moment in time, people that did not know each other all decided at the exact same moment to change their lives and stop selling. So now I had no way to get drugs. Like these guys didn't even know each other. And I'd call up one guy, be like, hey man, what's good? He'd be like, listen, I found Jesus. I want to be a good father. I am out of the game. Click, don't call me again. And I'm like, all right, bye. Call up the next guy. Exact same story, but they didn't know each other. It was like crazy. So I, like now I was just like at the bitter ends, and, I had like a physical dependency to heroin. I was strung out like mentally on every drug. And then physically I had a couple of dependencies to certain substances. And I experienced a spontaneous healing to help me out of heroin withdrawal. And after that healing experience, I was like, okay, this is definitely real. Like there's no way for me to deny what's happening.
Wow.
And then of course
you got to stop right there. Like you can't just drop that in and keep going. What?
Okay, I'll tell you about the healing experience. So I was on day 3 of withdrawal, mainly because I could not find anybody to buy drugs from. And then like I would get drugs from a stranger and they wouldn't work, or like, it just like all of these divine things. And so I'm in the middle of heroin withdrawal, which like, if you don't have any experience with that, I'm so happy for you, but it is brutal. I mean, like brutal. It's insane. It feels like your bones are on fire, like your skin is made of broken glass, hot and cold sweats. You're sick all over yourself from both ends, welcoming death. I was welcoming death. And, I had this thought, and it was kind of like a moment of mental and spiritual suicide, because I really felt my parents and I felt their desperation. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to have to die to make this stop. There's no way that I can get through this. And right then I heard this voice, and it said that I could request what I wanted fixed. And I was like in the throes of desperation. So I was like, okay, strange voice, I would like to no longer be physically dependent to this substance. They told me to count back, to lay back. And so as I counted down from 10, I saw these 2 little men appear in my mind's eye, and they were wearing these white lab coats and they had these little lawnmowers. And I watched them map out my whole brain, and they walked through every crevice of my mind, and they mowed out the old neural pathways and they made space for new ones. And as they walked through my mind, I felt these intense hot tingles. And when they were done, it felt like somebody was drawing X's across my forehead. And then in this bright white flash, I was instantaneously healed out of day 3 of heroin withdrawal. I mean, like moments before, I was sick all over myself, praying for the divine to kill me. And then all of a sudden I was completely well and healed. I jumped out of bed. I fell down on my knees. I was crying out, how could this be happening? I don't believe in this. Like, you could not have picked a more unworthy subject to bestow this kind of grace on. So like, for the contrast, before this experience, I was an atheist, an orphan to suicide. I was a homeless meth head prostitute strung out on heroin. I was a liar, a manipulator, a thief. I was a rapist. I was a racist. I was all of the things that you would think would condemn you to the exact opposite of what was happening for me. And I felt like this flood of unworthiness take over me. Like, how could a person like me receive this kind of grace? This is impossible. This goes against everything that we're taught. And so, you know, like in this moment, I just kept hearing that message, like, you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe. And I started to believe it. And so then I thought that I was the second coming of Christ, obviously. I went out and I was like trying to lay hands on homeless drug addicts. I was like, I have the power to heal. Let me heal you. It was crazy. It was crazy. And thank goodness for integration, right? Because like, I found myself through a bunch of divine signs and synchronicities in a long-term rehab. And I stayed there for a year and a half, integrating my spiritual experience and learning how to be a person without using drugs. And that's where I came across like all the information that I use in my life today. I had this insatiable thirst for knowledge. I had never used my mind before. And so I read every sacred text cover to cover. I read everything I could get my hands on about metaphysics and the law of attraction, and I began to manifest my reality. And I just started with like little small things, like I'm going to see a blue ball today. And then they would take us out to go play handball, and it would be with a blue rubber ball. And I was like, wow, if I can manifest a blue ball, I could probably manifest a bag of peanuts. And so I just kept going really slow like that, and just really getting like my footing in attracting things into my energy and into my environment. And by the end, I had manifested schooling for myself, an apartment for myself, a job, a career, money, furniture, a community, so many communities, all the teachings that would help me along my way, my mentors, my spiritual teachers. And I created this whole different life for myself with the help of Source and my angels and my guides. And I got to develop a relationship with all those aspects of myself as well.
And all your manifestation is coming from a pure place, right? Like it's all coming from, that's the key.
I mean, I have a Corvette and stuff too, but no, I'm just kidding.
No, but there is, you know, that's undeniable then, isn't it? When you're resonating from that place. A quick question I had for you, just to put it into context. When you're trying to get off heroin, how long do the withdrawal symptoms normally last then?
Normally, withdrawal from heroin is about 5 to 7 days. So day 3 is like the worst, you know, because like you're right there on that hump. Like if you can make it to day 5, then like you might be able to smooth a little bit, you know, like it might be, you know, a little bit easier, but that's really like the worst day. It's right up there on that uphill, you know.
Yeah. Wow. Then what, I'm curious because you obviously became ferocious for knowledge. Are there any books or texts or things that actually started to jump out to you and go, ha?
Yes. Many. You know, and the one spiritual principle that I really love in my spiritual journey is the spiritual principle of open-mindedness, because I did not have that when I first started the journey. I was like super self-righteous. I was like, I am the second coming of Christ. I like literally actually believed that. And, you know, like I thought that my way was the only way. And so, you know, I started diving into these different religions that were already, you know, like man-made religions. And I thought like, I got to find the religion that works for me. And so like, I went to like an evangelical Christian church, and then I went to a Baptist church, and then I started reading the Quran, and like, it spoke to me, you know, like I felt like poetry, like I was there when it was being written. And I thought, am I supposed to convert to Islam? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I just kept getting so confused because I thought that I had to pick something. And then I realized that I don't have to pick anything. I can pick everything. And so I just really started to cherry pick things out of my my awareness with all these books. A Course in Miracles found its way to me, which is probably my number one spiritual tool that I use on a daily basis. If you're unfamiliar with what that text is, it's a metaphysical text. It's a channeled message from Jesus, and it's channeled through the mind of an atheist psychotherapist from Columbia University in the 1970s. It reads a lot like stereo instructions. It's very challenging to understand. And I have a beautiful study group that we meet weekly, and we read the text together and we talk about our ideas about what it means. And that's one of my favorite things that I found. I also study the Baha'i faith pretty closely. And if you're unfamiliar with that, it's the world's youngest religion, and it believes in the oneness of religion, the oneness of humanity, and it combines the conceptions of science and spirituality. And I love their scripture so much. I'm not a Baha'i. I don't subscribe to any particular religion, but I really resonate with their scripture a lot. And I have such a beautiful Baha'i community. And there's just so many beautiful things. I really resonate with Gabrielle Bernstein as an author. And those are some of the tools that I use.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Question that I popped in there as well while you were talking about that is manifestation and the law of attraction. Because again, they're buzzwords. They've flown around all the time, and people get so caught up on wanting to bring in different elements into their life. What are your thoughts on that? How do you view it, and how do you apply it in your life?
Yeah. So, for me, manifestation is, okay, so I believe in pre-birth planning, and which for me means that the major plot points of my story are already mapped out. And so are the partners that they're going to be with as well. And in between is where I get to exercise my free will here on earth. So for me, manifestation is calling in the experiences that I would like to experience in between those plot points. Like you shared, manifestation is always going to happen much, much quicker and easier when it's service centered, when it's coming from a pure place. Like if my only dream is to have $1 million and to drive a sports car and to have like a beautiful penthouse in Midtown Manhattan, which, those things are on my wish list, but, they're not necessarily centered with the good of humanity. So they might not come to me as easily as some other things and manifestation is just really about intention setting. It is such a buzzword. Like the word itself is kind of like leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but it's really just about being able to manipulate energy here in the third dimension. So everything that I desire, I already have. I might not be able to tangibly see it, but I live in a multiverse. There's parallel realities happening all at the exact same moment. So everything that I desire, I can pull in from an alternate reality, or this waiting space where everything is. I just have to tune into the frequency of that. So I do certain things to keep my frequency high. I eat clean. I'm a gluten-free vegan. I don't know how that happened. I only drink water. I exercise my body, and, I journal, and I do one thing for self-development each day. And I'm of service. I do a lot of service. And for me, that really raises my frequency as well. Selfless service to communities, to other people. Doesn't need to be something super huge. It could just be smiling at a stranger on the street. That's an act of service, and it can raise your frequency.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you. And there's a couple of other things I want to close off before we wrap up the podcast as well, because you mentioned about plot points and pre-birth planning. So do you feel then there are elements that we are given for ourselves to overcome, and then there are elements that we choose within our journey? Is that how you kind of view it then?
Yeah. I think that so some things are mapped out and we cannot avoid them. So there's so many different analogies to use for Earth. Earth is a school. I have picked a particular major coming into school, and that's what I did in my pre-birth process. And, while I'm here, I have to let go of the lessons that I learn while I'm here. I don't know if I'm going to actually answer the question or if I'm going to go off on some other tangent, but the plot points are mapped out. So for me, this helps me practice spiritual surrender because I don't have to be so attached to the outcome of anything. I know that my soul has designed my life for the highest good for this lifetime experience, and I can just let go. I don't have to worry about who's going to come into my life, when it's going to be, like what I'm going to do for work or anything like that. Like I can truly release. And that gives me so much freedom in my experience. Even if the pre-birth planning was not
Mm.
part of my spiritual experience and it was just a belief that I happened upon, I would adopt this belief in my life because it gives me so much freedom to let go and let the universe, just like let God do whatever it is that God does. Like whatever creation has in store for me, I can trust that my higher self has got me and I don't have to worry too much about it.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Like, because when you give up the fight and the struggle and the control, it's so freeing. And I always remember, I always wanted to create freedom and peace
Yeah.
within myself, And so, I'm interested just to hear your perspectives because of everything you've experienced. Then you obviously believe then we reincarnate, we have multiple lives. And if that is the case, do you think there's an end goal? What is the purpose of coming back and coming back, coming back?
Oh my goodness. I love this question. What is the purpose of life? It's just a small little question. Let's tap into it. I honestly, and this is like not maybe like a favorable response, but I think that we keep coming back over and over again because heaven is boring. That's like really what I think sometimes. I think like how boring it must be just to be in unconditional love and light. And, like we want to come and experience duality. I think of Earth, another analogy that I like to use is like a roller coaster or a video game. So, like you go onto the roller coaster, like have you ever been to an amusement park? You wait in this long line. You're like, all right, let's do it, And then you get to the ride and it's only like 14 seconds that you're on the ride and you forget about how scary it was. And it felt kind of thrilling in the end, right? As you like come back into the dock and you're like, you know what? I'm going to ride that ride again. It wasn't long enough. I want to experience again. It was like thrilling and exciting and like, let's do it again. So you get on there with your partner again and you go on the ride again. Or, I liken it to a video game as well. Like we're just here. It's like Sims Earth. It's like boring 3D, whatever. But like we're here to experience different stuff and just to call things into the experience. And I believe that past lives are actually parallel lives. So everything that if you've ever done like a past life regression or you feel really called to like a certain geographical location on Earth or even in another star system, all of that stuff is happening simultaneously, which is why it resonates so much. And so then you get into the whole theory of the multiverse and like all of that really cool stuff, which is another great opportunity to release. If there's an infinite number of simulations or simulated realities happening simultaneously, why am I so attached to this one? Why am I so attached to the emotions in this one? Like I am an actress in this play of Earth and I don't have to be a method actor. I can just read my lines, play my part, enjoy the ride, get my paycheck and go home at the end of the day.
Wow. Yeah. So I care to see the vision of holding a mirror up to each other and then looking in, and you just see this infinite number of possibilities happening all at the same time. So do you feel then that source beyond us, beyond the 3D, is the eternal now, the eternal present moment? So if it's eternally present, there is no linear past, present, and future because there is only now.
Yeah.
And then as we come down into density form, they're all happening simultaneously, past, present, and future realities.
Right. And we're conditioned to believe in linear time and we're
Yeah.
conditioned to believe in past, present, and future. And we're also very conditioned to live in past and future. And to, everything in this video game that we live inside of says don't stay present, stay in these other aspects of your life.
Yeah. Where the magic is
Yes.
in the present moment. It's a head spin, isn't it? Because I heard Tony Robbins quote once: "A belief is a poor substitute for a direct experience," and it's so true, isn't it? And when I think quite often we go chasing these experiences or wanting these experiences to have them, but even then, once you have the experience, what are you going to do with it? You still have to live your life. You still have to turn up for yourself, and I think that's the key to it all.
Yeah, there's a saying, right? It's like to reach enlightenment, chop wood and and move water or something. And then it says like, what do you do after enlightenment? And it's like chop wood and gather water.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing, and yeah, it's a big part of the integration process. You have like a spiritual experience, whether it's all at once or it happens slowly and steadily. And it's like, we're still here to be human. We're still here to experience life as a human and whatever that means.
Totally. So what life as a human for you, what's next? So you're you're on this incredible journey. You're clearly surrendering into things as well, but I have no doubt there's an intentionality behind all of that and the direction you're going.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously I want to take over the world. I want to be on the cover of the video game for Earth this time around. No, but like I really I crave to be of service in whatever way I can, I mean, obviously I have this really powerful testimony of transformation, and sometimes that's my purpose. My purpose is not super rigid. Like whenever I picture the word purpose, I always see like it in big block letters and like it looks like a jail cell. But for me, purpose is not rigid. Like sometimes my purpose is to share my testimony, to connect with another person and we share together. Other times it's just to be a shining light. Sometimes it's just to listen. And so, I'm trying, I'm not going to use that word trying. I am living in a vibration where I'm in tune with how I can be of service in any given moment. Like I'm writing, and yeah, one of the things in my grocery cart was to be an author. And so, I'm hoping to have that manifestation come to fruition soon. All I have to do is just keep taking those baby steps in that direction. And, eventually that will be the next step of it. And, I love holding space for other people. I have a podcast where I get to bring experiencers on and they get to share their experiences.
What's your podcast called?
So my podcast is through the International Association for Near-Death Studies. The acronym is IANS. And it's called Explore the Extraordinary. And we talk about all extraordinary experiences, from near death to after death communication to spiritually transformative experiences, anything in between. And I love bringing people on to talk about the slow and steady spiritual journey as well, because I feel like more people can identify with that. And I love hearing about people's tools for, like managing how to be a human and know that you're a divine spirit all at the same time.
Beautiful. Sounds like there's a lot going on. And last question, two questions. One is, what you mentioned you check in with the Course in Miracles book on a regular basis. What other little practices do you do to nurture that aspect with yourself, from the humanness to the divine within you?
Oh, this is such a great question, and I really love it. So I do a lot of character, aside from A Course in Miracles, which is a beautiful reprogramming. There's a workbook inside of A Course in Miracles, and there's a daily lesson, and it's really a reprogramming. Society has programmed me one way. Spirit would like to program me another way. So I use A Course in Miracles. I also utilize the 12 steps in a 12-step fellowship that I'm in for my addiction. And I also do a lot of shadow work. So what I do is I do a lot of character development around the different pieces of myself so that I can understand that they are not truly me. So I got a lot of aspects to me, I think that I'm this very complicated individual, but I have my addiction. He's a man. I see him as a man in my mind anyway. And he has like his own personality profile so that I can tell when a thought is coming from him and not me. So like thoughts of jealousy or envy, like, look at those people in the pub having a great time. Like, don't you want to do that? And I'm like, no, Richard, I don't want to do that. Okay. And I have an inner saboteur, an inner controller, an inner critic. I have a wounded inner child. These are all aspects of myself that I do character development around them. They all have shapes and names and faces and outfits and voices, because it helps me communicate with them so that I can find out what they need so that I can succeed on my journey. And I also use the same tools to develop my light. So I use that same character development to develop my spirit guides, my angels, my team, my spirit team that help me. I also use it to develop my spiritual principles. So there's like a very patient version of me. I don't get to spend a lot of time with her, but she looks totally beautiful. She's like in this pink iridescent robe and it has a hood, and she's just like so chill. And she's like, come sit on a pillow with me. And I'm like, I don't have time for you. But she's there and I've developed her, and, you know, like my tolerance, just like all of these beautiful spiritual principles. So for me, a big part of my integration is compartmentalizing just in this moment. And it might change as I continue to grow and evolve and integrate. But for right now, I keep all of these pieces with me. This way I can kind of like check in. I can see what's not for my highest good, what is aligned with spiritual principles. And that's like my favorite tool. I love sharing about it. And that's also what I do in my coaching is I assist people in developing those pieces of themselves as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Because it just brings another level of awareness to it, doesn't it? That then you're able to work through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. Last question for you, Betty. With everything we've covered today, what would you like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
I love that question. Yeah. I think, well, again, I believe in spiritual autonomy. So, like, whatever you're doing on your path, you're doing on your path. But I really think the biggest takeaway from my experience for me and my own journey, your thoughts really do shape your reality. My thoughts before were, I'm impoverished, I'm a drug addict, I'm a prostitute, I hate my life. And so that was my reality. My thoughts today are different. I'm an abundant individual. I'm surrounded by spiritual community. I have a connection to the divine. I love my life. And by changing my thoughts and reprogramming so that I can actually believe those new thoughts, my whole life has exploded from rock bottom to outer space. And if that's possible for me, it's literally possible for anybody. I am no more special than anybody else. We are all infinitely special, and we all have access to awakening and awareness.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Where can people reach out to you?
Yes, I love making new connections with people. Please feel free to reach out, especially if you're experiencing a challenge with addiction and you need support. There's so much support out there waiting to embrace you and love you and assist you in your transformation and your healing. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. My handle on everything is Buddha Betty. It's a play on words. And yeah, and I would love to connect.
Betty, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing. I truly loved listening to you and your enthusiasm just bouncing through the screen here. It's beautiful. And
Thanks so much.
I have no doubt. Yeah, I have no doubt a lot of people will come and check you out after the show today.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Betty.
I appreciate the space that you've created. Thank you for what you're doing for the collective. It's really beautiful.
I appreciate that. Thank you.